So, before we get started, I think we should take a second to recognize the huge step forward Cardfight Vanguard took for all card game anime kind today, and that is, it actually featured a man cosplaying as a female card. Y'all have no idea. It is so weird watching how gender politics works in card game anime that to see them actually take this step really just had me burst out laughing. It felt so out of left field considering how Cardfight Vanguard often can be, so that was amazing. Now all we need is for Aichi to randomly turn into a girl, Kai and me what a fuck, and for Flogel to start having sex with Wingle, and we will have officially covered all of this franchise's hentai. So anyways, let's move away from that and get right into this week's episode, because I think everyone kind of had the same fear going into this, that since this episode would be focusing on Ibuki and the Deleters and the Tatsunagis and bringing up the plotline of last season, a lot of us, I think, were afraid, or at least I was, that this would kind of be a bit of a mess. Fortunately, it was not, and they kind of went with a really different, interesting approach. I joked earlier about the whole, taking a step forward with the cosplay scene, but in all due reality, this actually was a very different approach to what is a pretty common subject in card game anime. That is, ooh, is it me or is it the cards in control, or what have I done, blah, 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 blah. You see it all done like this before, but I can't really think of a lot of situations where they went with a full-on horror type approach to everything. Maybe with Jaden and Yubel and Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, or maybe with some of the Vector and stuff from Zexel. I know I may have lost half of you if you haven't seen those two Yu-Gi-Ohs. But no, it's a very different approach, and I quite liked it. It was really good, and they were committed, too. This wasn't like one or two creepy scenes. No, they settled on an idea for this episode. Ignore the train. Shut up, train! Fuck! You're half a mile away. Why do I hear you? Basically, what I'm saying is, they settled on an idea, and they really executed it, and it went well. Like, from the minute it starts, where you just see Ibuki alone in his apartment, and, like, there's just nothing, and the dripping sink, and the sort of gray, uninviting, just very aesthetically unpleasing looking tone. It complements things perfectly. The way you see him when he wakes up, just how scared and just like in a cold sweat and shooken up he is just by imagining what he's done. And also the decision to make him shirtless. I'm sure some people will make like fan service jokes and things like that, and I could make a cheap one or two if I wanted, but hey, I'm the guy who made a Zorakiel cosplay joke. I already got in my cheap bits. But that's just clever because he's vulnerable. We sort of associate nudity in anime with comedy, but a lot of times just that idea of just being naked and alone. Okay, he's not naked, he's wearing pants, but you get my point. Basically just that idea that this is what is just his life now. He's just a series of scared as hell of the Link Joker and what it did to him and what he did to others. That was also great because they found a way to keep that sort of dumb thing from last season going, and it was actually pretty interesting the way just the idea of what he did bothered him. Not necessarily what happened afterwards or necessarily what that did to anyone, but just the idea that he messed with people and he screwed around with people, and how much of it was his own doing, how much of it was him being manipulated. That's a really interesting angle, and again, the episode was dedicated to that. Like, that was really fucking cool. And then when he punches the mirror, like, we see that in everything, but where a lot of things fail is there is no consequence afterwards. No, you see him, he goes to the card shop, his hand is all bandaged up. Okay, the bandage is gone after that scene, but whatever. That's another big deal because it shows us that it's not just emotional pain, it's having effects on him physically. Yeah, it's a simple thing, he got his hand all cut up, but it's a smart thing, and it's a clever thing, and it does a nice job of showing just the progression and consequences of everyone's actions. When you look at how things have been going, basically from episode 1 of this show, there is a steady line of A caused B caused C. Does it always make perfect sense? No, but it's at least a followable line of what's been going on. So then we get the bit with the guy in the card shop, and this is a real nice way of showing that Ibuki still has a long way to go, not with forgiving himself for everything that happened, but just as a person when he goes up against the douchebag in the card shop. Also, I like the fact that he was afraid what'll happen if he gets rid of the deck. Some people could say that, well, he could throw it out in the garbage, or light it on fire, or cut it with scissors. But remember, A, it's magic, so it'll probably just come back to him. But also, B, what if he doesn't fully want to get rid of it? Remember, this was what Ibuki defined himself as. His whole sense of power and being came from his desire to bully people with this deck. That is a pretty clever and subtle way of showing what's going on in this guy's head. And then he has the card fight against the jerk, and that was also really good. First up, it shows that he still has his temper. He didn't want to fight the guy for any logical reason. He was like, fuck this guy, and took him on. And then during the card fight, we get what might be my favorite aspect of this episode. Just like the visceral, just unpleasantry to what this is doing to the guy. Like him puking, and the way he constantly looks vulnerable, and the way the pain of all this gets to him is not something you see a lot of. It's very risky in something like this, which still has to try and appeal to a younger audience. It's risky to see them then do something like he's puking or he has this level of visceral reaction. It's not pleasant. It's not happy. What's going on to this guy, you don't want going on to you. There's no fun or enjoyment of watching him go through this, except just the enjoyment of, wow, this is actually really well done. So that was great. And then, of course, Ultra Rare finds him. I also like the fact that Ultra Rare is kind of, for once, moving aspects of their own story forward. They're not just doing as they're told or pawns or anything. They don't actually need to find Ibuki. Nothing is really going to change about helping Suiko enjoy Vanguard again, besides the fact that Rekka and Korin just want Suiko to be herself again. This is also kind of a scary notion to think about, because right now they don't really know what they are. I also like the way everything's handled with the Tatsunagi Corporation in this episode, because you see them all in there, and essentially they're just right back to square one. They're just being manipulated by the Tatsunagis to just do whatever they want. In this case, be idols and observe the Koshin, or whatever this new villain wants them to do. So it's sort of this other angle of, well, not only do they now not remember who they are or what they are, but now they're just being manipulated all over again. Kind of justifies Masaki's fears in the last season. So then Ibuki goes over, and we have the Suiko scene. The scene where he says Suiko wears too much makeup made me laugh. I think this also brings credence to the popular theory Suiko isn't actually 17, but is made to think she is. I think that's what's going on. I really like it. I've seen that theory a few times over the years. But then we move on to... I really like the scenes where everyone is trying to get their head right. The scenes where they're trying to remember each other or trying to get back into Vanguard. I brought this up last week, but I think it deserves reiterating here. Like, you see Suiko when she's trying to remember Ibuki and what happened to her, and you really get the sense just like the strain it's putting on her brain. Like, those scenes are really effective. And so then we get their card fight, and Leon shows up. I never thought I'd actually be excited to see Leon in Card Fight Vanguard, but I'm really interested to see where this is going to go. I don't know why they need to watch the fight in a separate room that I think is only like 50 feet away from the backyard. Also, what are those fucking camera angles? But no, that's an interesting aspect. I'd like to see that. Finally, we have to talk about our new villain, the new concert master. That's what they're called. I guess I don't fucking care. I really think they're going full on he's the villain, or his sort of mixture with Azel that is the idea behind these characters, or whatever the fuck that's about. That seems to be what they're going with. And I'm really interested. Like, every angle he's shown at, the way he's acted, the way he moves, the way he sort of goes about doing everything, you get this strong sense that I'm in control, I'm the mastermind, I'm planning everything, and I never got that from Takuto. Not when he was Azel Takuto in the original series, not when he was Deleter Link Joker Takuto in the original series, and same with either version of this. There seems to be a very conscious effort for you to think that this guy is fundamentally different from the way Takuto handled things. Rather, that's because he just, who he is, has his own sinister goal, because remember, we didn't see the blue rectangle on his head that is the symbol of you are possessed and Azel is inside you. Hey. But we didn't see that, so maybe he's not actually got the powers, but he's planning something, or maybe Azel is in him. God, this sounds so good. Maybe Azel is in him, and Azel's maybe planning to go in a darker direction and go a little bit sinister. Remember, guys, Platinum Azel is going to be announced within the next few weeks, so we might be seeing a corresponding anime episode where we see Azel go on the offensive. So all in all, then we have the fight between Ibuki and Suiko, and it's fine, pretty standard. Standard angel feather stuff. I like that Ibuki loses, and just the way Greyon is like messing with him and manipulating him and the visceral reactions. There's really not much more to say at this point. I've been going for a while, but long story short, it's great. I think it's very clever. I think it's very creative. I think it takes advantage of genre concepts we don't normally see card game animes using. So all in all, I really dig it. But did you, in the comments section below, give me your thoughts on this week's episode of Card Fight Vanguard. Give me your thoughts on where all this is going. Give me your thoughts on that train in the background, because I'm tired. I'm not re-recording this. So, yeah. And as for the Vanguard question of the week, so I finally have all my Messianic Blaster stuff, and the general consensus across the board is that Blasters are the worst fucking deck in Standard. I'm kind of agreeing. But I'm going to put this up to you. Now that we know that Gancelot is going to be really interesting, do you think it's worth just holding on to Blaster stuff right now? I'm not looking for advice. I'm always going to hold on to my Blaster stuff. Do you think it's worth picking up now? Because if Gancelot is the start of actual good Royal support, do you think we could see the Blasters become a particularly better strategy? Because all of them have interesting effects. They're just so damn situational. Tell me that below. And as always, click to like, click to subscribe, and join me next week as Glory Maelstrom makes its debut. Because of course it is, because everyone gets love but Tachikaze.